Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking Main Street and the small business lender who helps it grow. Lance Sexton, Delaney Section, Fraud Friday edition. Hey, Lance, before we get into that, number one, you have an important webinar next week on equity injection. This is one of your most highest rated webinars. Why does the audience need to send their loan closers to this, even though someone's been doing loan closing for 5 years?
Well, just understanding how to properly document the source of the equity injection and proving that the equity injection was actually made is so critical. And, especially on an early default loan. One of the primary reasons for a denial of the guarantee on an early default loan is not properly documenting your equity injection. Now, at the Mid-America Lenders Conference, Bob, there was some discussion about changes that have taken place in equity injection in the new SOP 5010 7.1. And I'll talk about those too. And I'll tell you that Lance doesn't completely buy in to, one of the discussions we had at Mount, Bob, is we could have a completely new administration shortly and a new administrator at SBA and a new team. So some of the changes that have been made may be reversed. And so there's a lot of discussion about how to document equity injection. What I'm going to share with you is what Lance Sexton thinks you should do in terms of documenting equity injection to be safe and get the guarantee purchase made.
Talking about decisions that have been overturned, help me out with this, Lance. In 2015, SBA, 2016, the SBA issued new name changes to the loan programs. I believe 504 was going to be, do you remember what they were being called?
I don't remember, Bob, but it didn't last too long, did it?
Anyway, the 504 was going to be called this, and 7A was going to be called that. And then on January 21, I'm embellishing, there was a memo saying, no, we're going back to 504 and 7A. Hey, you mentioned Malk. Tell us about it real quick before we let Delaney air the dirty laundry.
Well, the fun thing about Malk, Delaney and I just got back, and I led 3 breakout sessions, guys, and I had record attendance in each of the breakout sessions. I did one with my good friend Chuck Evans, and I did a couple of servicing and liquidations sessions. The attendance at Malk was the largest attendance in the history of the event.
How many?
So it was, I don't know the exact count, Delaney. I don't know if you remember, but it was more than 500.
Good for them.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Good for
And
them.
the participation by SBA headquarters, there were at least 7 SBA headquarter members there, including John Miller and Miss Frost, and also our good friend Eddie Ledford and 504 Chief Linda Riley and others from SBA. But good SBA participation. I think first of all, it was a great event. A lot of people there. The big SBA takeaways, guys, this is funny because we've talked about it on Coleman Report, but they led each presentation with, guys, don't forget about PPP servicing. And SBA indicated that they'd like to have all PPP servicing wrapped up, in the next, the indication I got in the next 3 to 5 months. The other thing they talked about is when SBA issued these new notices to the borrowers to apply for forgiveness, they're telling people, lenders, hey, go back to the portal and make sure you have decisioned your forgiveness on PPP forgiveness. So there's a big push from everybody at SBA to get the lagging PPP loans taken care of in the next 3 to 5 months. So John Miller talked about it. Katie Frost talked about it. They all talked about it. There's a push. Part of the reason for that, guys, is they do have a lot of money that have paid for contractors that have helped in the PPP servicing process, and apparently that money's running out at the end of the fiscal year. So they need to get that done. And the other thing that they emphasize that everybody needs to know, it doesn't matter what size PPP loan your borrower has, they can submit for forgiveness in the SBA PPP forgiveness portal. And the other thing that,
go ahead, Lance, finish.
The other thing they talked a lot about was SBA 504 refinance and some of the tweaks, and there's even more changes. They didn't go into detail, guys, but there, and Delaney, you remember this, there are more changes that are being proposed to make the 504 refinance better for lenders and better for borrowers.
Which everyone agrees with. And real quick, if SBA is telegraphing what they're interested in, the next time they look at your shop, whether it's a desk audit or a in-person review, and Lance, PPP loans are 7A loans, so you cannot ignore them.
They are in PPP servicing in my servicing sessions. PPP servicing is actually in the SOP 5057-3. So it's just a 7A loan that needs service, and SBA expects you as a participant lender. I know we all think it's over, but remember, a PPP borrower can submit for forgiveness up to the maturity date of the loan, and some of these PPP loans made in 2021 don't mature until March, April, May of 2026. So there could be forgiveness submissions all the way up to that date.
Great. Thank you very much for that. Real quick, Chris Roglieri update. There's a new lawsuit. A couple defendants have been added. Eric Martin and Scott Dibber. I'm going to butcher his name. I will not try, but he was the executive director of the conference, and now he's been named on this. And pretty damning stuff. This came out on Monday. Specifically, these gentlemen used interstate wires to send plaintiffs urging that they close the loan transaction. The problem was Prime went into an involuntary bankruptcy in December, and after the involuntary bankruptcy hearing and was granted by the judge, then these gentlemen allegedly then went to this company, which was had something to do with building an egg ranch, and said, hey, you got to get your money in by the end of the year in order to secure the financing, which of course they were already in bankruptcy. The $5 million that they sent was supposed to be in a separate account, and it is part of the $90 million that is now missing. With that, Delaney, what have you got for us?
All right. Hello, everybody.
Oh, I like the tractor.
Yeah.
We have a couple tractors this time. Mr. Todd Ray, first off, between 2017 and 2018, he got 3 business loans for $3.5 million from Hawthorne Bank. And he got these loans with good intentions, but the businesses were not doing so well. They ended up falling into default. He had subcontractors suing him for unpaid invoices, and the bank began to initiate foreclosure proceedings. But he delayed that, and what did he do to solve this problem? He went and applied for PPP loans for his 4 businesses. Across the 4 businesses, he received $12.5 million. He was inflating the income of all these businesses. He was claiming employees that did not exist or employees that worked for him in the past and did not work for him anymore. And he used this money to pay off all of these loans that were in trouble. Now, it seems that's not all he did, because there's quite a list of things that were forfeited as a result of this. So I will go down the list. 2 properties in Jefferson City, Missouri. A property in, I'm a little stumped here, Valparaiso, Indiana. Sorry to anybody that was there.
Yeah.
Valparaiso, thank you. LaPorte, Indiana, a 2020 Chevrolet Silverado, 2 2021 Chevrolet Silverados, a 2019 BMW X5, a 2020 John Deere Z-Track, a 2020 John Deere tractor.
What do tractors go for these days? What do they go for these days, Lance or Delaney? Lance knows, don't you?
A new tractor can be in excess of $100,000.
Oh yeah, easily.
Especially like the tractor we're looking at. You know, I quite often in my SBA breakout sessions, I'll talk to them. Don't forget about farmers. They can be a great source of SBA 7A loans, because these tractors like we're looking at, Bob, can cost $150,000, $200,000.
Easily.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Delaney.
I will carry through my list. Compact track loader, and this is where I'm going to get a little bit lost again. a perpetual chronograph wristwatch, 2 stainless steel Rolex Sea Dweller self-winding automatic diver's watches, and then a Citizen EcoDrive radio-controlled world time self-winding automatic watch with sapphire crystal. Those were quite a mouthful, but some nice watches. So he is up for potentially 40 years in prison, but this story is connected. This banker, I actually covered him about a year ago.
I remember
when he was indicted.
tickets. Absolutely.
So Mr. Anthony Omar Brockman was a bank manager, and he's now facing up to 70 years for aiding Todd Ray with his crimes. He ended up helping him with the application. He received $12.4 million, the last man. This banker helped him apply for more than 27.1 in PPP loans. And he received, I don't know if it was substantial enough to have committed the crime, but he did receive some kickbacks with these Kansas City Chief tickets and one of these trucks. But yeah, he's facing up to 70 years.
With the Kansas City Chiefs and our fraud stories? That was Hector Barreto, was also Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, in 2020.
Sure. Well, I'll say it was the championship game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills.
And who won?
The Chiefs.
I can do some quick research while
you don't even have to ask. It was the Chiefs.
There you go, Wayne.
See, once again, I will confirm I know nothing about sports. So.
Well, a nice 2021 Chevy Tahoe, that's about a $60,000-$70,000 car. Very expensive car. You know what's interesting about these fraud cases, Delaney, is they must not have provided information about the affiliation between the various borrowers because they've exceeded the max PPP amount. They shouldn't have got up to $12.4 million unless they forgot to identify the affiliates.
Yes, I actually had to ask you about that yesterday as I was writing the story.
And Lance, I'll let you do this. This last sentence, I don't understand it. I just don't understand the last sentence. How does that work, Lance?
Oh, him applying for unemployment?
And receiving unemployment.
While receiving a paycheck from U.S. Bank. Well, what happens, it's like all the fraud, guys. We've talked about fraud now for several years, and people dip their toe in and they have a little success and they're like, oh, well, why not move over to the enhanced unemployment benefits? It's kind of sad that somebody that was gainfully employed at a bank didn't know better than to aid someone in PPP fraud and committing unemployment fraud. But hey, it's
now if you're indicted for receiving unemployment benefits working for a bank and the bank fires you, then are you eligible for unemployment, Lance? How does that work?
That's a tough one, Bob. I'm not incredibly knowledgeable about the unemployment process, but I do know that during the pandemic, the enhanced unemployment, there were a lot of people that decided to, and Delaney has covered several stories of people that wanted to take advantage of the enhanced unemployment.
What else you got for us, Delaney?
I have one last story here. It was a man out in Las Vegas who tried to obtain more than $500,000 in Paycheck Protection Program and Economic Injury Disaster Loan funds. And he did so while he was on supervised release for felony drug and gun convictions. So as you can imagine, this didn't really end well for him. He caused losses of $46,731, and he will now be spending 2.5 more years in prison, and he will owe that $46,731.
I would venture to say that the drug and gun charges now will move along a little quicker with the addition of PPP fraud on top of it.
Yeah, very, very much so. Hey, Lance, we're doing another webinar in a couple of weeks about allowable loan broker fees. Did that come up at all during Malk? I know Delaney had said there was issues about understanding the changes in the SOP, but are brokers and lenders clear on what can be paid on a referral fee.
Well, I think the allowable fees are not incredibly clear. I don't know if there was a breakout session on this or not. At Malk, there were a number of great breakout sessions, but honestly, Bob, I was so deep into delivering a breakout session that I'm not, aside from Linda Riley and Eddie Ledford's breakouts, I didn't know what other sessions were going on. But I think it's important to understand when you use loan brokers, what is an acceptable fee, what's not, what type of reporting you need to do. It's also important as a participant bank. I always encourage every bank, Bob, collect a packaging fee. I mean, you do a lot of extra work, collect a packaging fee, but it's important as a participant bank to understand what can we charge? What kind of reporting do we have to do or not do? And do we have to do a 159 on the bank's packaging fee? So
and
this
how do
is
we
a very,
how do we document it? Absolutely.
yes, absolutely.
I'm going to close with Delaney. Delaney, this is your second Malk. Put on your reporter's hat and read the room. How was the atmosphere? How were the lenders? Tell me what your impressions were.
I will share this very authentic thought I had as I was reflecting and getting ready this morning. You know, when you're a kid and you go to the local fair or an arcade or a theme park, everything just seems so huge and shiny and bright and grandiose, and it's just on a scale that your brain can't even comprehend. That is what going to these conferences feels like to me. I feel like a kid walking into an arcade. It was once again incredible. I'm so impressed by how well put together it is. On that scale, with that many people and of that quality, they make it seem easy. And I know it's incredibly difficult to manage something like that. So I was so thankful to have been able to see everybody again and connect with everybody.
Good. Well, Papa, you got to be proud of
Yeah.
your little girl.
It was very great to have her along, Bob, and it's getting bad because just as many people want to come up and shake Delaney's hand and say hi to her as they do me. And Bob, we're gonna have to fix. No, I'm just teasing.
I think Delaney's Q score is now higher than yours, so that's awesome. That's great to hear.
One of the great things about Malk, John Miller reflected that his first Malk was when Hurricane Katrina hit.
Oh, wow.
And he was supposed to speak in New Orleans and it got moved to Dallas. It's not just Malk. All of these lender conferences are an amazing opportunity to get training and an amazing opportunity to connect with SBA lenders. So if you haven't been, please sign up and go to one in your area.
Yeah, absolutely. We have it on the calendar, and that's a great endorsement to attend these local shows. They're very reasonably priced and excellent content and great networking opportunities. Thank you very much today for joining us for Coleman Report Live and supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.
Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend.